below their wages before raising it were below the new minimum wage.
Okay. I think Milha?
Yes.
I think they are ready for us, so I think they were
Okay,
they were expecting a few more members, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so maybe I should put on my camera. So we're still waiting a little, or?
Yeah, we are calling the secretariat and see if they're still expecting some of the members.
Hi, we're just waiting for the chair of the committee. He's just,
okay.
Yeah, we'll start in a few minutes. Sorry for the delay.
Okay, thank you. Assalamualaikum. Are we going to go to Libeto?
ada වෙලි වෙන්ගෙතර
I'm consultant වඩ ගැනීම ඉංග්‍රීසියෙන් කුරේ කියන නේද? Sure.
ada
All right. Thank you, members of the Social Affairs Committee. So we are the World Bank support team for the income support project, under the component 2, we have several consultancies targeting the strengthening of the social protection system in the Maldives, and one of it is the development of an unemployment insurance benefit scheme. Here with us, we have Professor Milan, who is undertaking the current study, and he has undertaken quite a few meetings with stakeholders, and we're somewhat halfway through the study as well, and we're actually running on modeling and estimations as well at the moment. Normally we just hand it over to Professor Milan to go from there. But maybe we could have a round of introductions from the members of the committee, and then we'll let Dr. Milan go forward from there. Chair.
Thank you. First of all, I have just say sorry for the delay and an unexpected delay. Today here, me from Ihawandu constituency and Jihan Mahmood Hinnavar constituency, Hussein Firshan Madaveli constituency, and Muhammad Rashid Mafannu Machangoli North constituency, Malay City, and Ismail Ahmad Duafar constituency. Those are the MPs attending today's meeting. I would also like actually Professor Milan to give an overview of this paper. So if our members need to clarify anything more from your overview, I will give opportunity to our MPs to clarify for the clarifications, and if any questions they have, any even for suggestions. As a start, it will be easy if we get an overview of this paper from Professor. And also thank you, Professor and team from the Economic Ministry, for giving us this opportunity to put some input from our committee as well for your work. Thank you. I'll give opportunity to Mr. Professor Milan.
Good morning, good afternoon to everyone. Thank you very much for attending this meeting. I hope we will have a productive discussion, and indeed, I think, thank you, Mr. Chair, for suggesting that I briefly kind of introduce this work, and then really the purpose of today's discussion on my side is really to discuss and obtain your views on the dilemmas in designing a UA program, an unemployment insurance program in Maldives. As you will see, this is not a simple program. It's actually quite complex, and there are quite a few dilemmas that need to be decided upon, and it's great that if you can participate. So just to kind of in a nutshell, to explain what this is. So this program works so that members who are participating in the scheme, and this would be all people who are employed and who have some kind of a formal basis, and who would actually pay contributions. So you have the population of people who are employed workers who pay certain percent of their wages to the unemployment insurance fund, and then those that are unemployed and they fulfill certain conditions, above all that they are typically that they have lost their jobs against their will, so they are not voluntarily unemployed, those would receive unemployment benefits, and there are certain duration to that. Typically, you may think about 6 months to 12 months, and there are certain benefit level. Typically, it is determined as a percentage of previous earnings of a worker, and this is called a replacement rate. And this would be, again, it varies, but it could be 50%, 60%, 70%, something like that. And it varies. It may vary also during the time. It may decline. So this would be the financial part. But very importantly, unemployment insurance program has also an employment services part. And this is so it is not just a financial transfer program like pensions. You qualify for pensions, you receive pensions, and that's it. No, in unemployment insurance is really the program that conditions typically the unemployment benefit received. So if in order to, once you qualify, in order to keep it next month and so on, you have to do certain things. And indeed, the society, if you will, is taking advantage of this to offer employment services to the unemployed, to improve their employability, to improve their motivation, to also help them finding a job through varieties of ways, including, of course, providing the list of job vacancies, but also referring them to what they call active labor market programs. And this could be, for example, employment subsidies. They can be training programs. So that there are certain programs that really temporarily put them often in the work environment, and the hope is that would provide sufficient exposure to work to improve employability and to get eventually the unemployed to work. And so so there are two components of this program. One is the financial part, paid, so those people who are employed pay contributions, and then people who are unemployed receive from these funds, receive their benefits, and at the same time, like job centers in the Maldives would offer employment services to groups, focusing on different groups and so on, to improve their chances to obtain employment. Do you have any questions at this point?
No, it's clear for us.
Okay, great. So the experience in developed countries is certainly a guidance. And we know in many developed countries, these programs work, I would say, reasonably well, meaning that they provide, compensate people who lose jobs. They compensate them for the loss of income. They also, studies show that employment services, for example, frequent meetings with the unemployed, also trainings, that they help to improve chances of the unemployed. We also know, for example, more sophisticated things as sanctions, for example. While they help the unemployed to take a job, they sometimes also have negative effects in terms of persons unemployed withdrawing from the labor market and also taking jobs that pay less than otherwise. So the experience in developed countries is very rich, and surely we can get a lot of information from that experience. Nonetheless, introducing such a program to a country like Maldives, so introducing the program in a country per se is a challenge. And of course then adjusting the program that it works under local circumstances, that in particular circumstances of the country, is a challenge. And this is a challenge in particular because the informal sector, the employment is often takes place as informal employment that is without a contract, without really being registered in social insurance, and under such circumstances, it is that really has a profound effect on unemployment program when it is introduced in the country. And of course, it's also, as it is in the Maldives, I mean, job centers are only now kind of starting to expand and gain experience. So the services are not widespread. So it is particularly the circumstances that have to be accounted for is this presence of the informal employment, as well as the fact that the administrative capacity to monitor job search, for example, is often lacking. So what I should emphasize that among the conditions that are imposed when introducing unemployment insurance, when receiving benefits, so employment recipients are supposed to fulfill certain conditions, and among others, really report. First of all, undertake job search and also report about their job search. And so that is quite an important part of the program. The point is that, of course, the problems that such a system, such a program introduces is the fact that you only receive unemployment benefit if you are unemployed. And sometimes people may actually forego taking jobs because they do have the unemployment benefit. And also, here comes the importance of the informal sector. They may work in the informal sector and actually declare that they are not employed, and they would still receive unemployment benefits. In other words, the incentives, really, the incentive part to take a job is very important. So if what I would like to now for us to focus on the questions, I think you received the Inception report that was produced, and on page 14 there are 7 questions that we could tackle. Do you agree? Do you have any questions, or should we proceed?
Hello, I'm Jihan. I represent the Pinavara constituency, one of the northern constituencies. If I'm to understand correctly, the proposed unemployment insurance program essentially applies to a person who previously had a job and has been employed and has unwillingly lost or involuntarily lost their jobs, right?
Yes.
Yes. If you look at the unemployed people or unemployed population in the Maldives, my concern is the high rate of young or youth who are unemployed, who've never been in a job before. Therefore, they would not come with experience or, the other qualifications that entitle that person to a program, not just the UI benefit, but also the UI support program. So that would mean that we would still be, given the Maldives context, we would still be leaving out a very crucial group of people, and these are young people, and these are the people who are most in need of unemployment benefit if we look at other social problems in the country, including the drugs and gangs and etc. And so I'm just wondering if this applies only to people who've previously held a job. How are we to cater to this group?
Excellent. Thank you very much, Jihan. This is really right on the target question, and I think that's probably one topic that I hoped to discuss in this meeting. And indeed, I mean, that's precisely what do we want to do with this program? What is the purpose of this program, as I put it in the inception report, right? And the point is that while probably it doesn't mean that the youth, and we know, I mean, we looked at from the highest data, that unemployment is particularly high among the 15 to 19 and 19 to 24 year olds, and particularly in ATOs. And and of course, particularly there are many of them, most of them, that never worked before, so they will not qualify. Indeed. So what does that mean? And so what I think the experience elsewhere would say that by all means we don't want to exclude them from this program, but the question is, should we give them money or should we give them employment services? The experience elsewhere is that really such groups may well qualify for employment services. So they would be coached. May have job clubs where they discuss issues about how to go about jobs, whether they want to take a job. We know that families support them. Youth in the Maldives, their family support is strong. So under such circumstances, what is the best way to approach this kind of problem? So so looking from experience elsewhere, in short, the answer would be, by all means, try to reach by employment services, try to reach these groups, but unless they indeed contribute to the scheme before, they would not be given monetary benefits. They may, for example, if they are included in the training, they may be given training stipends or transportation subsidies, or if they're included in employment subsidy programs, they would be subsidized. Their jobs would be subsidized. But but just purely providing them with the monetary benefit, that's not done in other countries, I'd say.
May I follow up on that? But I completely agree with the making sure that they're not eligible for any sort of financial benefit by virtue of the fact that they're just unemployed. And I also strongly support government proactively having a program that proactively seeks to engage this group of individuals or youth in a training program, or one that would increase their eligibility for employment or their capacity to increase their employability. But I am also thinking, which also requires another set of, if I was looking at the household income and expenditure survey of 2014, and the major reason that this group of people have quoted as the reason for not being employed is just it's not well explained, but it just says health concerns and health reasons. And so I think as a nation, it's something for the economic ministry to think about very, very in depth, because if the group of 19 to 24-year-olds are saying that they're not employed or they're not in a job because of a health reason, then really we need to explore into what is this health reason that is keeping them away from employment, and that is, I guess, one thing that we need to check before designing a program that would include them in some sort of future employability net. But having said that, I also agree with offering stipends or discounts or programs for them to participate in an employability increasement program, such as increasing their skills or giving them certain set of skills or certifications or etc. to help them find a job. But at the same time, I feel like there is already so many free education programs in the country. The government already supports so many mainstream free education programs. But what we don't have is vocational and technical training programs for this age group of people. We have for students and children below 18 years, but we don't have for some sort of subsidized or one that is one that has a stipend or one that has a discount for use for in the vocational training or skills training programs, such as especially those that are required for the main industries here, like tourism and tourism or construction or fisheries. And so I'm wondering, how do we get, I mean, the objective of this program is, obviously to support the unemployed, but also to give an incentive for the unemployed to seek an employment fast and soon enough so that they are in the job market and they can support themselves. So in order to support this youth group, I'm wondering what else can we do outside of the already offered programs for those who have been previously employed, who are eligible for this UI program. But what else can we, I think the government would need to think about what in addition they would be providing this special group of people, especially based on the condition that they're citing as the reason for unemployability or unemployment. And so that program will have to be a little different from a lot different from the UI employment support program.
Right. Well, excellent. Thank you very much again for this. Well, I looked quite in detail in the highest 19 data about discouraged workers. What I would certainly not that's not the only reason. They may quote health concerns, but what we find there is that actually their wage of many, particularly discouraged workers, but also unemployed, that their wage expectations are too high of the younger workers. I wonder if you have the situation assessment report that I produced about 2 weeks ago, and it has quite a... Yes?
Sorry, because the situation report hasn't been finalized, we haven't shared with the committee yet.
Okay. So as you will see, I've done a quite detailed analysis, and we can quite precisely nail down the groups that actually have too high expectations about wages. Their expectations actually are higher than wages actually earned by people who in similar circumstances. But indeed, the experience elsewhere again can be of great guidance, and particularly young people, they do need it. One thing is, if they're capable, they may be very talented, but then there are other barriers that prevent them from really even trying to look for a job. And experience elsewhere indeed can show, and so this is just, and you will, I hope we will, you'll get the hold on the situation assessment report. I do discuss there maybe 8 pages about precisely the type of services to offer. And so it would be, so just briefly summarizing, so what the job centers would have to do would be determining the treatment of unemployed persons, determining who needs help, who doesn't need, so that's called profiling. And then for each worker who would register, including those that wouldn't qualify for financial reward, awards, so there would be preparation of the employment plan. And so they would quite specifically say in every month in the following year, let's say, what job seekers should do, and if it's deemed desirable, they would undergo training. If not, they would do different other inclusion in other programs. And one of very useful and effective ways is really our meetings with advisors. And so these are also job search assistance workshops. So it will be so it is particularly what the experience shows, that hardest to place job seekers is one of the most efficient intervention is intense counseling. And then, of course, what really is important is that it has to, the counselor has to figure out what is the main barrier, what are the barriers for the particular person in obtaining a job, and then approaching them with tailor-made approaches for each job seeker. So, so that also, of course, it is a challenging thing in Maldives because of the geographical dispersion, but there is recent experience that you can do via internet services, you can do interviews, so it's not necessarily that the interviews take place in person. So, and again, one important lesson from other countries is that you have to experiment with different labor market programs to fit the country in local circumstances. And for example, one, again, experience is employment offices should work with employers, local employers, to develop jobs for job seekers. In a country that I'm from, in Slovenia, this is quite important, and about 20% of the unemployed receive their jobs by help, by so-called job development services of employment offices. And so this is strong ties with local employers and local communities. So in here, I think the local council's role, as you have in Maldives, would be very important. And then another principle is really that the hardest to place job seekers, perhaps the youth in your case, should do what's called the work first programs. You should try, above all, I still submit that really a lot is in persuading, in making them willing and wanting to take a job. And when that happens, then use the work first programs so trying to put them in the real world as apprenticeships or perhaps this kind of employment subsidy programs. And perhaps, again, in Maldives, trying with the SOEs to get this kind of programs. Also, then it would be with women, perhaps develop programs promoting women's entrepreneurships. That's another option. And again, so it would be very important to really try and have innovative employment programs that would again, create tailor-made approaches how to put unemployed to work.
Thank you. I actually like to clarify one thing. I understood that the employee has to contribute for the insurance contribution. For example, if I have been not at all able for this unemployment insurance benefit even when I reach to old age pension. My question is, what would happen to my unemployment insurance contribution? Will that be somewhere given to me, or government would use it for some other purpose? What will happen if the employee is not at all being eligible for the unemployment insurance benefit even when he or she reaches to the old age allowance?
Okay, very good question. Yes. So, well, this is, it's an insurance, right? It's any other. If you're lucky enough, you don't need the health services, for example. You may still contribute, right? But you're healthy, and of course, you don't need this. And this is similar in case of unemployment insurance. So again, this is insurance, and since it is social insurance, part of social insurance, so the risks actually don't quite match. The premium are not set based on the risks faced by individuals. We know that people who are higher education have lower risk of unemployment. In most countries, that's the case. And yet they pay the same kind of contribution rates and so on. So this is just the nature of, that's why it's called social insurance. Now, having said that, I think it will be very important if Maldives uses type of models that improve this kind of arrangement. The arrangement that you mentioned, and this is standard arrangement, it can be called OECD, it can be ILO endorsed models. This is what's going on in such models. But I do also in this Inception report, I have also on page, where is it, discussed, I don't know if you have this report in front of you. This is another one, I'm sorry, Situation Inception report. So this is on page 13, this box. It's called the hybrid variant of the UI program. And this is indeed the case where this, you would have, in addition to solidarity, a public fund, if you will, public UI fund, you will also have your own account. And if this is the case, and if you don't use if you happen that you are not unemployed during the time you contribute, you would then indeed use these resources for your pension. And perhaps, so this would, in a way, maybe it makes a natural way to do, so to reduce the redistribution. But there's another purpose of such an arrangement in unemployment insurance program, and that is it reduces the negative employment incentives that unemployment benefit programs may have. After all, you get your benefit only if you are unemployed. And so, in a way, this is an incentive not to take employment. Now, if you use this, if your benefits are partially self-financed, that is, you use the benefits from your own account, well, then this kind of disincentives are diluted, are reduced. And this is the reason that indeed I think the Maldives should think about introducing this kind of a hybrid system.
Thank you, Professor. And one more thing I have is actually fisheries sector. In Maldives, I think over 30,000 people are employed or doing fishing. So it's quite a big population as we consider it in Maldives, 30,000 people. So actually the fishermen are not an official employee. They are not an official employment. So what are the measures or what are the strategies you have used to make sure that fishermen are also included in this scheme, they also get properly unemployment insurance benefit when they lose the fisheries job. Maybe most of the time there will be a crew of a fishing boat, but that is not an official. They don't have a contract, or even they are not registered for the pension schemes. So it would be quite difficult to actually consider that as an official job. But 30,000, over 30,000 people, so it's quite a big population. We need to also make sure that they get unemployment insurance benefit when they lose their job. Also, the MP Jihan has a related question, so I would give her opportunity.
Thank you, Chair. I just had a related question to that of Chair. I wanted to talk about the informal sector, the whole of the informal sector, actually. In informal sector, what we have found is even with the COVID fallout, one of the reasons why a lot of people were not eligible for income support allowance that the government was providing was the fact that they didn't have any form of official or accountable records of their work, their experience, their employment, and also their employability of their skills inventory. And so I'm wondering how there's quite a bit of actually more women are working in the informal sector, and this would also mean that if there is unemployment, if there isn't any unemployment insurance extended to the informal sector, then we might have a lot of women who lose out whenever there is economic fallout, such as the COVID situation. So I'm wondering how are we to capture this group of people, the people in the informal sector and people who do not have official records of their work experience, skills inventory, or any sort of documentation supporting their employability. And so I guess it relates to a Chair's question on the fishing industry and fishermen as well. Similarly, the construction industry, etc. So yeah, that question. And the second one on, I understand that I understand many countries do not extend unemployment benefits to migrant workers. But this again is not a population that we can ignore when we talk about any issue of employment in this country. And so I know it will be a highly controversial topic, but at the same time, I think we need to, as a country, as government, as state, and we need to have a very clear policy justification for whatever decisions we take on the issues of migrant workers with proper documentation who are thrown out of their jobs or who are rendered unemployment by, no voluntary issue of their own.
Excellent.
Also,
thank you very much.
I want to add a little on that unofficial employment part. Even of unofficial employees, even the fishermen, their income is not fixed. It's not identified, their income. So it would be quite hard to collect the contribution percentage also. So I wonder how the government could deal with this situation. Thank you.
Yes. Well, again, excellent. These are really extremely pressing questions and important questions when introducing such a system. And the answers are not simple, as you'd imagine, but most countries, I would say, do not include informal sector workers. And of course, it's very simple. The rationale is their income is not registered. There's no employer really to pay for them their part, and so they are not excluded in such schemes. And the question is, how can we do better? I have, for example, with the Business Center Corporation, where I discussed quite at length, what are the incentives for the self-employed to register, that they may fear taxation will increase their taxes, and so when many they do register because they may either gain access to finances and then get government contract. Many of them are not interested in that, so the incentives to enroll in self-employment are low. And for fishermen, of course, again, it wouldn't make sense, right, to do so. So really, it is very tricky. Now, on the other hand, the way this program works, it is typically provided to people who lose jobs. And so, if you don't have a formal employer, how will you establish such circumstances? So it is quite tricky to do so. And it is still possible. For example, in Slovenia, in my country, as well as in some other countries, certainly in a minority of countries, self-employed are then included. So you might have, so if you one thing persuade the informal workers to register as self-employed, and then you might include them in the scheme. But of course, that would again require some kind of a mechanism of determining whether they indeed qualify for this, whether indeed the demand for their services went down, which is not an easy thing, but it can be done. So as far as there are schemes, as you may be familiar with pension schemes for informal workers. So where you would would incentivize fishermen, let's say, if they contribute a certain amount, the government will match such an amount. And so that may, some countries have done that. Unfortunately, the experience is not very promising. What it shows is that better off among these people would take advantage of that, and people who are really the main target would actually not take advantage of such schemes and not benefit from those. But this is precisely, in this situation assessment report, I do provide quite a lot of attention. Actually, one section is devoted to the informal employment, and we know, as well, but from highest data, so about 1/3 of workers is informally employed, and so the question is how, at least for some of these, how you would get them into a bit more formalized relationship and then include them in such a scheme. And as Ms. Jehan mentioned, so yes, women in particular are worse off in this respect. There are such, so in short, the problem you mentioned, it's very real, and some countries are trying to address it, for example, by including self-employed in this scheme, some countries may also do the matching programs, so where they would match the contributions made by job seekers, by employed workers. They would provide, the government would match their contributions. But the experience is not very positive on this one. So this program, at the end of the day, if something like COVID happens, there would be other programs that would try to help them. I'm not sure I can. I'm very sorry, but it's really don't kill the messenger. I think this is. It's very important that you are aware of this program, and perhaps down the road introduce certain features that will help also this population. And as far as migrant workers, again, I would say that indeed I completely agree with you. They are also the group that should legitimately be thought of. Here, I may suggest I refer you to experience. Actually, they're not aware that there are programs right now, but I work on Saudi Arabia as we speak, so to say, and they are thinking about introducing the mobility savings accounts for expatriate workers. So they would, apart from being paid wages, part of their wages would go to these accounts. And if they lose jobs, they would get access to these funds. And if they leave the country, of course, they would then take that out if they didn't use it before. So there is this notion of mobility savings accounts. You may also think about including them in the scheme, but this is, as anybody else, but this may be a tricky proposition because they may leave the country, and so they may be indeed contributing much more than taking the benefits, which in a way would be unfair.
Oh, and I just want to know, looking at our financials, can we afford a UI program?
Very good point, yes. So one thing, obviously, as we discussed the informal, including informal workers, we know that people who are right now, let's say, contributing to the Maldives retirement pension scheme, so they are better off. Their wages are higher. And so we are talking now, hopefully we may get some more self-employed included, but in other words, this program would include employed workers from a better off segments of the population, which really is saying the government should not pay the cost of such a program. The program should support itself, right? And so indeed, again, as we speak, I'm doing the simulations, and it looks that under reasonable assumptions, or 60% replacement of previous wage, eligibility for 6 months, so that 1.8% contribution would be sustainable. This is in short the answer from the simulations I'm doing. So in other words, if, for example, this contribution is split, 0.9% on the part of the worker, 0.9% of wages on the part of the employer, this program could be self-financed. This is just a financial part.
That sounds very encouraging. My other fear, therefore, is if the employee is to contribute 0.9%, and then the person is to get 60% of their wages as UI, do you calculate that there would be a risk of us losing experienced, well-trained personnel in higher paying jobs, just 5 to 10 years before the compulsory retirement age, just when we need them the most, by virtue of the fact that they don't know that they will be offered an unemployment insurance?
Well, I mean, again, in principle, right? I mean, that shouldn't be a problem. I mean, the people work, and so they are receiving the benefits only if they are laid off. So if they are involuntarily lose their jobs. Now, having said that, indeed, in certain cases, you do see, for example, in France, they changed the eligibility conditions, and sure enough, you could see that the patterns of work changed, and so more people kind of dived in, if you will, and to take the benefits. But this is really misuses that are taking place. I don't think it's not on a very large scale.
Thank you so much.
I think we kind of exhausted. Maybe just, if I may, just look at the questions, if there are any others. I think we really quite in depth covered these programs. So we covered the contributions. We discussed the disincentives. One other group is really maybe just the last question that maybe I wonder, how do you see this program? Question to you. What existing institutions or programs could be used to implement it?
I think what you've proposed and suggested in the paper is quite justified. The Pension Administration Office is already sitting in a position where they could quite effectively and without the government investing in another setup or an agency and without much duplication of similar kind of work is an avenue to entrust most of the responsibilities of the UI scheme, and it sits just in the right place, I guess, because we already have a similar pension program, and so they have the expertise and the human resources and other services, and also the National Information Database to carry out such a program. But I guess what we need to really work on head on right now, if we are heading in this direction, and we really need to head in this direction because it's one of the presidential pledges as well. So I think is to quickly establish job centers, decentralized job centers across the country. Unless we have that, and unless those persons are trained, and if there aren't accessible training centers, employability training centers, or mechanisms to monitor job centers carrying out their jobs, we might just have a lot of trouble with collecting credible data and information and providing the services envisioned in the UI services program. So.
Great, thank you. Yes. Yeah, I think as far as I'm concerned, I think we covered the issues. Any other questions on your part?
Thank you a lot, Professor Milan. Actually, right now we are very clear about this concept paper, and we don't have any more questions or any more clarifications. But I will thank you once again, actually, for giving us this opportunity to contribute on your work. And also we got, as Jihan said, this is one of the presidential pledge, and even the Parliament Majority Party MDP's pledge, even on our Parliament election. So we are actually looking forward to get benefit of this scheme as soon as possible to the people of Maldives. So once again, thank you very much for giving us this opportunity to have this meeting with you. Thank you.
Okay. And again, thank you for your contributions. And I would indeed encourage you to read this next one, the report that delves quite in detail into who are the workers, who are the youth who are unemployed, and also proposes quite in detail the services that will help them. So again, thank you very much for your contributions.
Thank you.